For fear of a court challenge from the landlords. A government of gutless wonders. Do you not think it would have been better to extend the ban and prepare to face down any court challenge by arguing that such bans are clearly and demonstrably in the public interest?
That's it for now. More in an hour.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA. For great value van insurance, go online to theaa.ie.
Humid and misty tonight with rain across Connacht and Ulster. Generally dry elsewhere with just the odd spot of rain. Lowest temperatures of 11 to 14 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.
This is News Talk.
Now, I'm sure you were noticing over the weekend, GAA club action has returned, so we're going to check in with two very familiar names. They are now very much of Ballahadreen and Alan Wood in Kildare. That's Andy Moran and Johnny Doyle on the way. The Irish hockey team, one of many, looking forward to Tokyo 2020. All that is on hold. We're going to chat to Chloe Watkins after 8 o'clock. Also after 8, OTBAM is in the midst of trying to pick the Dublin Mount Rushmore. No easy task. Today they looked at the north side, so we'll bring you some of Kenny Cunningham, who was on this morning. He was weighing up the footballing talent just from the north side, and we'll bring you some of his thoughts. And then on the football show, between 9 and 10, it would seem the move towards an all-Ireland league is becoming more concrete. Dan McDonnell will give us the details, plus updates on the live Premier League this evening as well. 53106 is the text number, as ever. You can get us on Twitter at @OffTheBall. Richie McCormick, hello to you.
Hey Joe, are you well?
Very well. Adrian Barry, good evening.
Evening, gentlemen.
So there is much going on. We will have Johnny Doyle and Andy Moran on the show this hour. Two clubmen now. Johnny Doyle of Alan Wood, 15 years with Kildare, so he served his time. And Andy Moran of Ballahadreen, 15 seasons with Mayo, former Footballer of the Year, obviously. Johnny Doyle now 42 years of age and still fit as a fiddle. He famously for Kildare didn't miss a single championship match. He played 67 consecutive championship matches, never injured, never broke a bone, never pulled his hamstring by his own admission. And it turns out with Alan Wood, he made his debut as an 18-year-old in 1997. Johnny Doyle, in 22 years, has not missed a single championship match for Alan Wood either. This is a man, Adrian Barry, who made his debut as an inter-county player at 6'1", weighing 10 stone, and who finished his inter-county career at 6'1", weighing 12 stone, and he was teak tough.
I never would he actually 6'1". I'm slightly surprised about. It's not in inter-county football terms necessarily like the top, like he's not the tallest, but I would have always had him down as a more of I would have thought he was shorter, is what I'm saying, Joe.
Well, I would have thought he was heavier.
Yeah, I mean heavier as well. Look at, I mean over the
10
years.
stone.
You're saying 42 there, as if it's like there's a real slight about your tone there, as if it's like some granddad that should be retired with the slippers on him at home and the pipe out, Joe. I mean, it's a bit disrespectful there.
Hey, Johnny Doyle is chasing around after lads who are 22 or 23 years younger than him. Well, I'd say actually they're still chasing around after him. He ran a marathon last year as well, so we'll ask him about that. And then, look, Andy Moran, 36. We'll see how. I don't know if his body is holding up as well, but he's back playing with Ballahadreen. So speaking of fitness, Adrian, speaking of old men running around, tell us about Friday.
Yeah, ran around the Phoenix Park. My main role on the day, it's my main role in life, but certainly my main role on the day was to make everybody else look better by my own underperformance. And to that end, I very much lived up to the expectation, Joe, and finished last to the pile. But yeah, it was a cracking way to spend a morning. For people who aren't aware, we were doing the BMW Triathlon Ireland duathlon. It was a virtual series that was going on over the weekend with hundreds of people around the country taking part in, well, actually everybody was doing their own distances. We did, now when I say this, you're going to go, sure, that sounds like nothing. Like I could probably jump off the couch now and go out and do that. And listen, maybe plenty of people could. I wouldn't have fit it into that bracket. 5-kilometre run, 20-kilometre cycle followed by a 2.5k run at the end. I mean, as I run, my body was moving and I was dragging my legs around after me. And did it, I think, in about an hour and 49, something like that.
Okay.
it was tough going, and I'm still sort of feeling the effects. I am also 42 and not quite in the peak 10-stone condition, as you can tell, of Johnny Doyle.
Yes, a different baseline of fitness to Doyle, I would say, Adrian, if you'll allow me.
Slightly, yeah. I'll allow that, John.
What was the toughest part? 20k cycle?
Yeah, I would say the 20k cycle, and the main reason for that, it was kind of in 3 sections. It was around a triangle there, for people who are familiar with this. It's 15 acres of Croke Park, just opposite the Papal Cross there. There's a sort of a triangle for both the run and the cycle. The cycle is a 4k triangle, essentially, that you do 5 times. But the one side of that triangle is supposed to be like it's an incline and or decline, and supposed to be a part where you kind of recoup yourself a little bit and regroup and take a bit of a breather if you want. But it was wind against, which nobody really foresaw, and it was bloody tough going. It meant you had to put a bit of hard work in there, where really you should be trying to recover small bit. But listen, the whole thing was tough for somebody who's undertrained and overweight.
Well, of course, yeah. Even on the best of days at the Phoenix Park, let alone when it's very windy, it feels like there's a wind. You're quite exposed there, so that can be tough going. So good man, fair play to you. Did you train hard?
No, I hardly trained at all. The team did a sort of a 6-week programme in the run into it, really helped by a couple of brilliant Triathlon Ireland coaches as well, it has to be said, Emmett Dunleavy amongst them. I did about 4 weeks, and halfway through that did a tendon which had me out for about 3 or 4 days. Like, I can't complain. Like, I don't think I stretched once either before or after I went running. I also did my hammer in the first half a kilometre of the run. But like the trooper I am, Joe, obviously, trucked on through.
It's a lesson for life. He didn't put much into it and he finished last. That's just well done, you.
But I mean, I finished.
You took part. You took part. You finished. You finished.
Joe, I finished 7th of the entire team off the ball. So.
Well, that's correct. I mean, you did it. 5k, 20k, 2.5k run. Fair play. Patrick says, clearly Richie is the Johnny Doyle of off the ball. Never misses a show, even when he's deputising for young Tom Dunn. He must get a rub down every night after all the effort he puts in.
It's like Don Reedy's old dressing room at Leeds.
So OTBAM, by the way, if you've been following Mount Rushmore over the last couple of months, I'm sure many of you have, is on to Dublin, which is no mean task now. And to try and make the whole thing a bit more manageable, they did Dublin North this morning, Dublin South tomorrow, and then we'll try and figure out what the hell Dublin is by the end of the week. So Kenny Cunningham will be on later on, just talking alone about the sheer talent of Dublin North football. But the Dublin North Mount Rushmore was, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong here, Adrian, JP just shouted this into me as I was running in. So it's John Giles, Liam Brady, Stephen Cluxton, Brian O'Driscoll.
Bloody hell.
Now, I don't want to know the names that are left off that.
Roddy Collins.
I'm scared to think.
It's what an insane list. Like, what an absolute... It's like we spoke around some of the counties. Down was one that stood out about maybe having a couple of contenders. If you were to do Down having George Best and Rory McIlroy on it, off the top of my head, like an All-Ireland Mount Rushmore. But, I mean, the names you've just mentioned there could easily be it.
I'd say when we see the names who aren't on it, it'll be worse again. So they're going to do Dublin South tomorrow. We'll bring you Kenny's thoughts on the footballing talent alone, just from Northside. He was effusive about Stephen Carr in particular, who, I mean, Stephen Carr really was amazing for a time. I totally agree with Kenny, what he was saying. There was a period, I mean, I remember the game against the Dutch away one of the years where he was just incredibly good, powerful, brilliant technically. So Kenny was talking about just how good he was, as good as anyone he's seen right back during Carr's era. So that's on the way between 8 and 9. We should start the news round. It is with thanks to Gillette. We don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters. And by the way, you can get the full Mount Rushmore discussion and all OTBM content, as you can get all off-the-ball content on the new app. Just search OTB Sports in your app store. Jack Charlton's funeral, Richie, that's where you're starting?
Yeah, Jack Charlton made one last trip around his hometown of Washington today. Thousands lined the streets and applauded the funeral cortege of the former Republic of Ireland manager. Here at home, a mural was unveiled of the England World Cup winner in Ballina. Irish radio stations joined together to play Put 'Em Under Pressure in unison at 12:30. And also fans recreated scenes of jubilation from that World Cup in 1990 at the Walkinstown roundabout in Dublin. His brother Bobby, though, was too ill to attend today's services in England. Jack's son told mourners today that many will know that as a family we wanted to give local people the opportunity to say goodbye to Jack and to pay their respects before he's laid to rest.
Oh, sorry, apologies, I thought there was a clip. Yeah. No, absolutely. I saw some of the scenes. I mean, it did cross my mind, Adrian, we're in the midst of a pandemic, but people are going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah, definitely. There were a lot of gatherings. I saw some of them more than yourself, you were saying there. And when you get past the fact that there was a lot of people in close proximity, which in itself is slightly hard to do.
Yeah.
You think about what a mad old country we are. Like, we gather at a roundabout to...
Sorry, is this a Father Ted plot you're talking about? Or, oh, no, this is...
I know. Like, hundreds of people at a bloody busy roundabout. I mean, I'm not sure it was that busy in hindsight 30 years ago, to pay respects to a cultural icon. We're a mad old country, and long may it last, I suppose.
So, Premier League this evening, we could have another side relegated, Richie.
Yeah, I don't think we will at this stage, the way things are going. Aston Villa could follow Norwich through the Premier League's trapdoor tonight if they lose at home to Arsenal at 8:15 and Watford pick up a result at home to Manchester City. Villa will be relegated. The latter part of that equation isn't going to happen in the early kickoff. It's currently Watford 0, Manchester City 2. Raheem Sterling scored both of City's goals in the first half, and he also missed a first half penalty. Villa boss Dean Smith, meanwhile, could do with goals tonight, and he's been asked about the contribution of Jack Grealish since the lifting of the lockdown. The playmaker hasn't scored since the 3-2 defeat to Tottenham back in February, but Smith has faith that Grealish and others can find the net again and soon.
You know, Jack is certainly not going to go through the whole of Project Restart without scoring. So he's due a goal with the chances that he's had and the opportunities. But the other players are as well. You know, Trezeguet scores 2 against Palace and probably doesn't have his best game against Everton. And you know, Ghazi and Ali Samat and Keenan Davies, they will come up trumps for us. We're sure of that.
We'll keep you updated on all games this evening. It's kind of been the saving grace, Adrian, for Project Restart, that the race for the top 4 has been pretty interesting and the relegation battle has been pretty interesting. You dread to think where this situation would be otherwise. Fairly meaningless, to say the least.
Yeah, maybe no better time for it to be meaningless, though, right? Like, because we'll look at anything. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Like, like, what I'm saying is that, like, it wouldn't, you know, it is great that there's something to look at, right? And it's an extra reason to turn on the football. But what I'm saying is that I'll happily look at anything now. I don't care. Like, you know, since we got past that, what was that first golf tournament that we watched? That was an absolute car crash. It had Rory was playing and Ricky and. Do you remember that one? Do you remember? It was an awful watch, and we all kind of thought, we're looking at least something to look at, and like it was the least competitive thing you've ever seen. And I haven't really.
Oh, sorry, at Seminole, the exhibition with Donald Trump on the phone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That was a dark time, actually, in hindsight.
It was a dark time. And then things got slightly better after that. What I'm saying is, like, I watched that, and I was actually, and I remember having the conversation with you at the time on air, I was happy enough watching it. Like, It was awful, but I was still happy enough looking at it. And I feel similarly about the football, that it is great that, there's a few little bits and pieces to be checked off. But what I'm saying is, if there was nothing to be fought for at either end, we'd still happily be watching the football.
Yeah, interesting. Funny, I find when there's nothing on the game whatsoever and it's an empty stadium, that's just too much for me. That's what I found.
But that might be the case for the crap teams, and it definitely is the case for some of the crapper games that have come up that I can't say I've clicked into. There was one of them the other night, Crystal Palace against somebody or other, and I couldn't bring myself to it. But for the other teams, regardless, I mean, for the teams that you actually want to see, Liverpool, City, Arsenal at the minute, bizarrely, United, etc.
Yeah,
you'll watch them.
Yeah, we'll be talking about this next story on the football show, Richie.
Yeah, 20 out of 22 top flight clubs on the island have written to UEFA asking them to consider proposals for an all-island league. The 10 Premier Division sides all signed the letter, but up north, Dungannon Swifts and Cliftonville did not. The FAI are backing their clubs' wishes, but the IFA are against the proposal. The preferred option for the clubs is a split season that would result in one club eventually being crowned King of the Island.
That's the second time I've seen this King of the Island thing. Is that good? Is that like the official term?
I think it's a boilerplate kind of thing that they're working with under the proposal that was put out earlier in the year from Kieran Lucent's people, which is the preferred option, as I mentioned there, of the two sides. What they build towards is this eventual league table, the crowning glory of which, for want of a better term, would be being named King of the Island. I am 100% certain that should this come around, they will work out something better than the title of Big Joe Joyce video.
King of the Island, yeah. So, but this does seem like a more of a concrete move. 20 out of 22 clubs, all 12 in the Republic, and then 8 of 10, I think. Certainly 2 in the north.
10 in the Republic, 10 of 12 up north.
Excuse me, yeah, apologies. Dungannon and Cliftonville did not. But that's a decent take-up, and so it goes to UEFA. But it seems like this is a bit more concrete, so we'll talk to Dan McDonnell later on in the football show, see what the feeling is. Cathal and Letterkenny, 10 stone. This is Johnny Doyle. At championship level, it's a good job he wasn't born in Donegal. He would have been blown off the pitch in Ballybuffet. And somebody else has texted in to say that Johnny Doyle's dad, Harry, played club football with Alan Wood till he was 52, which is some going. There's obviously something in that breeding. I know he was chairman of the club as well. 52 is good going. So Johnny Doyle's still going strong at 42. They're on the way this hour, by the way. We'll see how the return post-lockdown has been at club level in Ballahadreen and in Alan Wood. Anyway, I don't know about you guys, Adrian. I'm on the lookout for a club match to go and see. Obviously, 200 people can only get in, but I'm itching to see a game live and in person at this stage.
Yeah, big time. My own club at home were playing, not last night, maybe the night before, now under the stewardship of Liam McHale, actually, and flying it by all accounts at Lone GA.
Is Liam McHale manager, Adrian?
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah. He had...
Geez, you did well to get him.
Yeah. He had been in previously, a couple of years back,
right.
Under a different regime when Tom Traynor was managing them. He came in, I think it was having... Kevin McStay came in and took a couple of coaching sessions so there's obviously a bit of familiarity there. That loan wouldn't be a great stretch for him, I don't think, from where he's living as well. So, so they were playing Maryland in the league and they hockey the hell out of them. But I only say it by way of, it was the first time that I can remember where I was actually looking at the results coming in from the official Twitter account thinking, Jesus, if this was on somewhere now, 100% I would look at a stream of it. The more of that, the merrier. What's your club, Joe?
Selbridge. And has McHale been trying to tempt you back, or what's the word? Well,
there are strong indications that he's looking for somebody to come in and give a motivational speech. Right. One of the nights, Joe, pre one of the championship games. So, if the offer comes in, I'll have to give it some consideration.
I can hear it now, guys. I didn't train very hard. I finished last. You could be like me.
Don't be me.
Yeah, this is what happens.
And mic drop and get out of there.
So, Richie, the FAI have appointed another, I think this is their final independent director.
Yeah, the fourth and final independent director of the FAI is one Robert Watt. He joins independent chairperson Roy Barrett, Catherine Guy and Liz Joyce on the association's board. Watt is Secretary General of the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. He's headed up that department for the past 9 years. Really? So great experience behind Watt.
That might be a useful person to have around the board, Adrian.
An interesting character, probably a name that most people, including myself, until it was announced, probably had to do a bit of a second take and sort of, as probably a lot of these positions should be, I suppose would be the point. But a highly functioning, effective, clearly given the roles that Richie's mentioned that he had there, and he's described in the press release obviously as a high achieving and long serving administrator at that level as well. He's a guy that when you do a bit of research about him previously has done stuff like questioned the broadband plan and the spend on it. A lot of the stuff is in relation to his querying of government expenditure. I mean, given his own role, it's probably appropriate enough. Reminding taxpayers about the cost of meeting the climate change and emissions targets. He went previously for the governor of the central bank. He missed out on that. Interestingly, declined an invite, Joe, to the Oireachtas over a mooted. You remember the public services card that was mooted a little while back? Said at the time, sorry, he didn't decline it. What he said was he was too busy at the time. it was a busy time of the year and wondered if they could defer it slightly to make a bit of time from down the track. So a guy with an interesting past. And last year, before the Oireachtas over something else, it was the Public Accounts Committee. And they were getting ready to go in, and he was overheard calling the committee a mob. So there's a clip of it on YouTube, and it's a pretty interesting watch. Needless to say, made for a pretty opening testy exchange with the chairpersons of the committee, who demanded to know if it was the case and why he might say that. And there's kind of 2 minutes of kind of humming and hawing and vocal exasperation on his part about why the committee would start in this way. But the chairperson stuck with the topic at hand until she got what she wanted, which was a kind of an apology. Okay. And then sort of like, it was kind of a, if I did say that, I didn't mean it type apology eventually. And then they kind of get into it. And he was a guy that he had spoken with Shane Ross. He was a guy that wanted the gig, was the other thing. He spoke with Shane Ross about it around the turn of the year when Shane Ross was obviously in that role at that time, according to the Sunday Times a couple of weeks back. And Ross at the time said that he had reservations about possible conflict of interest, which you can see given his role obviously in government and then on the board as well. So it's a name that we hear now and we'll probably never hear again. Is the point. Like they don't tend to be positions that are extremely particularly high profile, but given the FAI's own recent history with Oireachtas committees, I just thought it was an interesting thing to point out. Yeah,
absolutely. Meanwhile, Richie, the December for Croke Park is taking further shape.
Yeah, Croke Park will host the All-Ireland Senior and Intermediate Ladies Football Finals as a double header. The games will be played on Sunday, December 20th. The junior final will be played at a different venue on the weekend of December 6th. It means ultimately that Croke Park will host 4 separate finals days between the 12th and the 20th of December.
Pro 16 news?
Edging closer, South African rugby chief Yuri Roux has hinted at the possibility of a Pro 16. New Zealand Rugby has unveiled plans for the Super Rugby 2021 season, not to include Argentina's Jaguares and the South African sides due to concerns over COVID-19. While Roux insists any changes to Super Rugby's structures long-term would require SANZAR approval at executive level, he says they're a long way down the road at looking at alternative options.
Adrian, what's your take on South African sides joining the Pro 14?
Like, you couldn't say it's been a success so far, could you?
No.
I think that the clear thing from their end was that they were using it as an experiment. So they wouldn't really put their full efforts into it, that they'd put it more on their domestic tournaments. That was clear and I think fairly stated. But that as time went on, almost that it was going to be a bridge, maybe, as I understood it, that at some point they'd pull out of those other tournaments and move all their efforts into that. And I mean, but you couldn't, I mean, if you were to make a decision based on what we've seen over the first, has it been 2 years?
Yeah.
You couldn't really say it's been a raging success, could you?
No, it's been flat as it gets, though the talk is it'll be their best sides coming in.
That would change it.
It would, I suppose. Is it just me who thinks about all the flying and, you know, the way the climate's going and thinks this is not really the way the world should be headed?
I think ultimately I think ultimately Rory O'Connor was in the other week and he was suggesting that if this does come to pass, and the fact that you have a larger and better quality cabal of South African clubs, then what you will have essentially is they've found that money is in derbies, so they will try and localise things, I think, moving forward.
Okay.
So the idea of playing 2 games home, 2 games away or whatever might not be something that will keep going forward, but I think there's a long way to go before we actually get to the meat and potatoes of scheduling.
Yeah, no, it's true. We've got a really good competition this evening, so obviously a lot of people's travel plans are affected. So the team at Fairways and Fun Days have put together some brilliant golf staycation deals in conjunction with their golf and hotel partners, designed to suit all budgets and requirements. These packages include 2 nights at a 4-star hotel, breakfast each morning, 3 rounds of golf at some of Ireland's best courses, a 4-course meal on an evening of your choice, a welcome drink on arrival and a prize pack for your stay as well. You can check out all the packages at fairwaysandfundays.com, and we've got one to give away every night this week. So tonight you could win yourself a 4-ball at Portmarnock Links and a €100 Fairways and Fun Days Ireland Golf Staycation voucher. To be in with a chance of winning, just identify our mystery voice. Here he is describing the pieces of his favourite chocolate bar, which is a Toblerone, as it happens.
Kind of a pyramid. A pyramid.
We'll give you that one more time.
Kind of a pyramid. A pyramid.
Text your name and answer 53106 for 30 cents, and we'll get in touch after the show. And actually, sorry, apologies, tonight's a 4-ball at Palmerstown Golf Course, and a €100 Fairways and Fun Day Ireland Golf Staycation voucher. So 53106, the text number, and we'll be in touch after the show to the winner. Adrian Barry, thank you. Rest up.
Thanks, lads.
Richie McCormick, thanks as ever.
Cheers. 4-0 to City now, by the way.
4-0 to City. Short ad break. We have Johnny Doyle and Andy Moore next.
The News Round on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.
This is an important announcement from the Department of Employment Affairs and Social Protection. As part of the government's continued plan to reopen our economy and society, many workplaces